cosplayers, absolutely.
I love going on the floor and seeing everybody.
There's so many talented cosplayers here, and I'm blown away like every time I come. So,
Although I am super excited to see Ming-Na win. I love her so much.
goodness.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
What's up? It's Mark from Nerd News Now and Miss Jen from Nerd News Now. We are in our home city of Houston at Comicpalooza 2021. Miss Jen, can you believe a convention is finally happening again?
It's amazing, and you would never believe that it's any different than any other year. Everyone's having a lot of fun. There's a lot of great guests here. Everyone seems to be doing a great job of having things that people want to purchase, and people are purchasing them. And there's so much good cosplay. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot going on, as you mentioned, tons of stars, 4 different stars from The Mandalorian, including Giancarlo Esposito. We got AEW wrestlers Britt Baker, Christian Cage. We have comic rock stars and Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman. And then one of your friends, the president of Top Cow, Matt Hawkins. So we're going to get out on the floor and bring some of that to you. This is Comicpalooza 2021 on Nerd News Now, from the Kingdom of Geekdom, sponsored by Woodlands Online.
Hi everybody, you're here with us at Comicpalooza, and I'm so happy to get to catch up with one of my good friends, Murphy.
Hi.
Murphy, you started out doing something in comics very different than creating them. Where did you start?
I was actually selling for my dad, who was a comic artist and a indie comic creator back from the 90s and the 2000s, and I would work his booth. And then I started working with Jamie Tyndall, who's actually right next to me here, and I was his sales rep for a long time. And then 2020 happened, and all of a sudden there was a big opportunity to write comics, and I took it, and this is what I do now.
So this is so cool, because what I know is that Murphy made herself so integral and important to the behind-the-scenes stuff at every con that all the artists and creators glommed onto this, and then she was a hot commodity, right? So everywhere Murphy went, people wanted them to help. So what do you want to do next? You've conquered making comics. Mm-hmm. What's next?
Oh, so, obviously, right now we only have our 2 series. We've got a couple issues out of each one. Mm-hmm. We have a whole lot of stuff planned. We already have another comic that we want to publish, and that'll be at the end of this year. We publish through Kickstarter right now, but my big goal is that, Merc Magazine is going to be a comic publisher. I want to be able to help other people make comics, and I want to just expand, onto the horizon.
Boss. That's what the design is. I love it. Do you have any other con appearances coming up?
Yeah, we'll be at MegaCon this year. We'll be at Dallas Comic Con, which is right in the backyard of here at Houston. And then the big whale, New York Comic Con this year. We'll be in the publishers section, which is huge. And I'm so excited that we were able to get in there. So I'm really excited about it.
That's exciting. New York Comic Con is the big one.
The big league.
Oh yeah. Thanks for talking to me.
Oh my God, thank you for coming over, Jen.
I love catching up. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, cat's out of the bag. Mark back here on the floor, and look, we found our old friend Chaz from Nerd News Now. We are having a great time. We're at the Brazen Monkey booth. Battle Cat and Panther, childhood dream complete from me. Let's get back out there and see what else we can find on Comicpalooza 2021.
Auditioned for a first play in high school, and got one of the lead roles, and said, you know, I'm the least person in this group. It's like the first time I've ever been in a group where I was like the least person.
When I was a kid and watching film, I wanted to be Bruce Willis and save an opportunity away because there were so few female action stars.
I was there when he was shooting. That really ages me. Thank you so much, David.
Hey, Mark from Nerd News Now on the floor with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD,
That's right.
current AEW Women's Champ. What is it like to be back on the road with fans?
Honestly, the best feeling in the world. We were in Texas this week, and I am convinced that we should probably wrestle in Texas every week because it was the best fans, I swear, we've ever had.
Texas loves wrestling. Now, because you're the women's champion and because you are Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, people want to know, what's the difference between DDS and DMD?
Absolutely nothing. It's the same exact degree. It's just different schools have different accreditations. So it's literally the same thing. DDS and DMD, same dentist, same credentials, same qualifications, just different letters.
And then just for the kids out there and for the adults that need to brush their teeth more, what's the best advice that you can give someone for long-term teeth care other than not getting super kicked in the face?
Well, that is number one. Just make sure you're brushing for 2 minutes. That's important. I know it seems forever. It's really important. Brush every day, every night, and floss. Everybody's lazy. They don't want to floss, but flossing is actually kind of more important than brushing your teeth, so don't forget to floss.
I was going to ask if flossing's real, but I guess that answers the question. Well, thank you so much. You put it all out on the line for our entertainment. And the way that you skyrocketed along with AEW, it's just awesome. So really appreciate it. Hope you had a good time in Houston and in Texas.
Love Texas. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, Mark here at Comic Palooza 2021, and of course one of the big features is cosplay. I'm here with Dim and Wit, and if you've ever been to a convention in Texas, you've probably seen them around. They are the cosplay fairies. Guys, how's it going?
It's going really well. Yeah, we're having a really good time.
What is it like to be back, in a live convention, just waiting during this pandemic? It's been like a year and a half.
Yeah, so we feel like we've been hiding under a rock for the last year and a half or so, but it's been great, right? Everybody's been very friendly. Lots of hugs, but plenty of people being cautious too. So yeah, we've been very happy.
Yeah. There's definitely a mix there, but it seems you guys have powered up, and now you can spread cheer and joy all over the floor.
We're doing our absolute best to bring kindness to everybody. If you can't find someone kind, be someone kind. And that's what we do. We do what we can to just try and be nice to everybody and have a great time.
That is awesome. Guys, let's check out some other cosplay from Comic Palooza 2021.
I am standing next to an amazing creator, Matt Hawkins. He has been in the industry for long enough to know what's good and what's not, and he's been making some amazing things recently. Tell me about starting a series and then having COVID mess it all the F up.
Oh, well, that's The Clock. Colleen Dorn and I are working on this book, The Clock, which is weird because it's about a pandemic. And she and I wrote the first issue of that 5 years ago. And after watching Contagion, the movie Contagion, I'm like, I want to do something that has the weaponization of cancer, which seemed like a fun Pixar kind of film, So I was working on this for years, did all this research, and then we started doing the book. The first 2 issues came out, and then Diamond shut down after the shutdown, the COVID and all this stuff, and then suddenly my 3rd and 4th issues never came out. And 6 months later, when they opened back up, the Image asked us just to put the trade out. So we ended up just putting the trade out. And so it's a lot of people that are fans of mine coming and looking, they haven't even heard of it. So it's kind of nice because now that I'm back out on the road, because this is my first con in almost 2 years. You know, this is my 29th year in the business, and I've probably done an average of 15 shows a year in that time. So last year I did 0. I mean, that's crazy to me. This is my first show in this year, and it's almost August, right?
So did you use all that time to be extra creative and make things, or did you just take a break and enjoy it?
Probably the latter. You know, everyone always says that, I don't know why, but I went back and rewatched all the Star Treks, and I rewatched Law & Order, CSI, and I rewatched all these shows I'd already seen. I don't know why I did that. I didn't take the time to watch new things. I did write a lot. You know, what I did work on a lot was Swing, and I'm doing a new book about online dating, and that is just the crazy growth business for us, that romance genre that women read, you know, and it is interesting, just to give you a comparison, I have sold 10 times the number of swings that I have the clock.
That blows my mind, but it makes sense because it gives people personal connection and like escapism.
Right.
It's kind of like, that is like great if you wanted to, like, if you're at sci-fi and get gritty.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially right now, you probably want to like not think about that stuff as much as possible, even though I kind of like go toward the clock myself.
Right. Me too.
But yeah, I think maybe people were like going, I just need to get out of this and out of my head.
It is interesting to spend 5 years working on something, do an intensive amount of research, and then bang out another book in 2 weeks and have it sell infinitely better.
I think it does good for everyone's soul to see the people they're familiar with and they are fans of out and about. So thank you for taking the risk on us. Absolutely. Crazy fans.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Hey, once again, it's Mark and Jen from Nerd News Now. Jen, it's been a crazy day. So much going on here in Houston Comic Palooza. Can't believe first post-pandemic convention. What'd you think?
I think that I'm worn out. I'm happy. I'm full. I am so glad I've got a million pictures of people on my phone that I haven't seen in a long time. Man, this was great. I can't wait for the next one.
Well, now conventions are back in full swing. Houston, of course, being the pioneers that we are, we did it first. We do it best. Bigger in Texas, best all around. We'll be back with a recap later, and help me close it out. We'll throw some B-roll. We'll throw some B-roll. Yeah, all right. So for Miss Jen, I'm Mark from Nerd News Now with the Kingdom of Geekdom and Woodlands Online. Thank you for watching our 2021 Comic Palooza recap.
Good evening, and welcome to the 22nd episode of Pop Go the Writers. I was waiting for Paul to do that, but I think he's thrown off by my golf voice. Now, joining us tonight, we have Paul Story and, of course, the lovely Rosalinda Diaz. Hello, Rosalinda.
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
It's good to have you back. It's been a day or two.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
I felt I had maybe driven you away.
Never.
So, all right, I'm done with the golf voice. So what have you been working on, Rosalinda? Let's start off with that. Tell the folks what you've been doing.
Oh, goodness. What haven't I been working on? I'm working on actually I don't know if you guys are aware, I'm sure you are, of the Amazon episodical platform, Vella.
Yes.
So I'm working on a middle grade children's or historical time traveling adventure book or series for that platform. So I didn't quite get in, they didn't tell us when it was going live. So it went live last week and it was not quite ready yet, but I'm hoping by this Friday to have it up and at least a few chapters, the first 3 or 4 chapters available.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, our former co-host, Dan Taylor, has actually taken advantage of that. He's doing a book called Adventures in Time with Zebulon Prime. And he has already got episode 4 up.
Nice.
So anybody listening,
3, just episode 4.
Yes, he started with episode 4. It's a time travel book. You can do them in order.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah. So since I'll plug that for Dan here, anybody listening, please check out. Like I said, it's a Adventures in Time with Zebulon Prime by Dan L. Taylor. Look for it on Amazon. The new is it Vella? Is what they're calling it?
Vella, I think. Yeah. Vella. I don't know how else you would say that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that as well, and maybe doing something for it. I'm not quite sure of the format, so I may pick your brain later on and see what you've learned about it, and see what I can glean off of that. Maybe we can get this thing going. So,
it's a new platform, and I'm happy to jump in and try something out that's brand new.
Yeah.
So, brand new for Amazon. I mean, it's not brand new in time and space, but
right. That's Dan's book.
Really.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Mr. Story, how goes the store running?
The store running's going okay. Still on the learning curve. But Comic City is a great set of stores. We have fantastic customers, excellent folks working with me, and living, learning, and so far so good.
And since it's such a wonderful place to work, I hear you're looking for some new employees in that area.
If you are near the Chesterfield Township area of southeastern Michigan, we have a new store opening up there. And if you check my Facebook feed or the Comic City website or the Comic City Facebook feed, then you can find out who to contact about that. We're looking for some good folks who love comics and want to interact with the public to share that love.
Yep. And whether this is a plus or a minus, you will not be working directly with Paul. He's at a different location.
That is true.
So that
Thank
might
you
be
for that, Dan.
Well, I said it could be a plus or a minus. It's possible. Some people may want to work with you, and they should know that they wouldn't be.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I was just being considerate. So
I'm sorry, I'm just not used to that.
I know you live in Detroit.
No, I meant for you being considerate.
It's always nice to be able to slap an entire city.
Yeah, that's all right. We're tough.
Ford tough. Yeah.
I thought it was built Ram tough for the Dodge Ram.
No, it was built Ford tough was the slogan.
That's weird. My family being a Ford family, that I messed that up.
Yeah.
Ah, well. Anyway, we should talk about you know, what we're here to talk about. After you tell us what you're up to, Dan.
Nothing. I haven't done anything. I've been I've been lazy since vacation. I came back and I just couldn't care. So did some shows. That's about
I
it.
was gonna say just does a show every other day.
A couple shows a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Anybody could do that.
hey, if I'm doing it, anybody can do it. That's my attitude about it. Because I'm doing such a half-assed job that everybody should be able to do better than me at this. So,
I don't believe that's true. I believe you're doing a whole ass job.
well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate the confidence.
Yes, not flipped around. That would be untoward.
See what you've missed, Rosalinda?
You know what? I've missed a lot.
I'm waiting for you to hit a point, Rosalinda, where you're just like, sorry, having broadcast problems.
Peace out, guys.
I gotta go watch Mannix. Gotta go. All right. So Rosalinda, where are you at the MCU? Did you actually watch Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I did not.
Okay.
I took a long break after WandaVision, and I jumped into Loki. And Dan, I have to say, you promised me that I would like this show, and from I will say, from the first moment that the show started, I was in love with it.
Yeah, this just screamed something you would be interested in, and yeah, and just from what I knew about the show, and I think even more so, I think they really kind of hit that sweet spot as the show, what it was going for. But I have been very fascinated to have you back on specifically because you're not as deep into the Marvel lore and stuff as a lot of our guests are. We bring Paul and I are both Marvel heads. We bring in like Jamal Weigel or some of the other guests we have, and we all kind of live and breathe Marvel. We've seen every movie. You don't have that background. You're fresh to this stuff. So I'm really curious to see your take on some of this stuff and the way time travel's handled and stuff like that. So why don't you start? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Why don't you start with giving us your overall impressions on the series?
Okay. First of all, yes. So I loved it. I love that we have a little Thor nod at the beginning. So right away, like, I'm happy. You gave me some Thor. I can relax now. Oh, and I have to mention, because I'll be drinking this. So this is my cocktail that I created. It's called the Mimoki for the show.
Okay. Mimoki, nice.
Like a mimosa, but it's a Mimoki.
It's a little darker than Luke Skywalker's green milk. So
yeah, it's like Loki green almost. It's Loki green.
So it's a mimosa with
curacao, blue curacao.
Okay.
It's as fancy as my cocktail making gets.
I was going to guess Midori, but okay, blue curacao.
Oh yeah, well, because of the orange juice and the blue curacao, then we get
right. That makes a lot more sense. Yep.
Okay. Anyway, so all right, this show. Stylistically, first of all, after we get through the whole how Loki gets dropped into the TVA, also hooked me. I could have watched everything in the TVA over and over and over again because that just was such a feast for my eyes. It's so beautiful. It's so well crafted. It's so much a part of the story that I don't feel like a lot of shows maybe have the opportunity or take the time to really make their surroundings that integral to the storytelling. I mean, everything, the lighting fixtures, the color scheme. I mean, just everything was retro and mid-century modern perfection for me. So that hit me before we even knew what was going on. I was in already. And then let me just say, obviously, since the episodical that I'm working on is time travel based, I clearly have a an interest in time travel. I mean, some of my favorite shows and movies are like Outlander. What are some other good ones? So the show, obviously the books, films like Somewhere in Time.
Knew you were gonna
Did you?
Yes, I was waiting for you. I was
Yeah.
literally thinking Somewhere in Time.
Have you ever seen
We're
Time After
telepathically
Time?
connected.
Time After
Time
Time with yeah, they did. They recently had a TV
it?
series based on it, but it's H.G. Wells chasing after Jack the Ripper through time.
Ooh, I like that.
Starring Malcolm McDowell and David Warner and Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah,
Ooh, okay, put that on the list.
yeah, that it is a fantastic movie. And then they tried to do a TV series of it a couple years back, and it just didn't take off.
Hmm.
I
I find time travel fascinating personally. I mean, just everything about it. Everything about. Oh, gosh, my brain is not working, and I can't remember the TV show. Dan, you must know. You know it. It was a time travel one, and it was on NBC a little while ago, and it was they were like
Timeless.
fighting. Timeless. Yes.
Ah, so good.
Timeless.
So good.
Love Timeless. Sliding Doors, the rom-com Gwyneth Paltrow film from the 90s. Like these are all my wheelhouse time travel movies that I adore. So as the series got clearer that this is what was going on, and Loki's the variant, and they have to prune him, and he gets to look back at his life and all of the decisions that he made and whatnot. I just thought it was genius. I mean, I think this is some of the best. I mean, including WandaVision and some of the other things on Disney Plus, but I think this is just the best stuff out there being produced right now.
Yeah,
from all levels. You know what I mean?
We got Caleb Richardson saying Loki was great. It's his favorite of the shows so far. That's a good question. If you were, I mean, we're looking at. Let's go ahead and just say Disney Plus series, because we want to go ahead and include The Mandalorian. Where would you rank the four? Mandalorian, Loki, WandaVision, and it's hard. I'm assuming you're going to put Falcon at the fourth slot, but
yes, sure. Let's go. Let's start with number 4, Falcon. Wow, it's hard to rank the other 3. They're different and they were great. I have a real soft place for WandaVision. But Loki, I have to give Loki the number 1 spot, and I think I would actually put The Mandalorian at number 3 for me.
What do you think, Paul? What would you do? Captain America fan yourself.
I was going to say, you have asked me for an impossible.
Yes, the Sophie DiMartino choice of ranking.
Boy, I think I'm going to. It's really, I want to just put them all about even, but that's not the way this works. So I'm going to say Falcon and the Winter Soldier number 1, because I just love Captain America and those characters so much. But I understand the problems inherent in the thing. But I just Sam Wilson, Bucky, the supporting cast. It was just I love visiting those characters again. I think I'd go Mandalorian second, Loki third, and WandaVision, which I still loved, would probably go in at fourth. But I mean, it's sort of like on this scale, they're all crowded in the top quarter.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a bad series so far.
Yeah.
But I would put WandaVision fourth, just because I'm not a fan of sitcoms. I still love the show, but there was a little hokiness and I think we didn't know what to expect with the show. It's still brilliant, but
I'm just mad Mephisto didn't show up. Oh wait, that's me.
We talked about it every week.
I know. I would put Falcon and the Winter Soldier third, just because of the changes they had to make. There are so many plot holes because of it that just, and I think WandaVision and Falcon could flip-flop easily depending on my day, how I'm feeling that day. Second, I would put Loki. because I think there's a few little interesting things that will needs a second season. Where for me, The Mandalorian took me from where I was done with Star Wars, tapped out, not even bothering with the movies anymore, and it reignited my love of Star Wars, which comics and Star Wars from age 5 years old, 7 years old up, that was it for me. Those were the two big things. So to completely reignite it, and the season 2 finale and just everything they've done on Mandalorian has just been pitch perfect to me. I don't look at it and go, okay, they needed to do this, or there was a problem here, and I can do that with the Marvel series. It's not a lot, but that still exists. So,
yeah.
All right, Cody Taylor says, it's cool that Loki made a good choice in the end. I wonder if Sylvie and him will be enemies now. Do you guys think they should have picked a different Jedi other than Luke at the end of The Mandalorian? Okay.
No.
No.
It made story sense. I would have bet against it because I didn't think they would have brought Luke in, and I didn't want them to bring Luke in because I want these a little more self-contained stories. I don't want, and that's my big problem with The Bad Batch, which this week's episode salvaged last week's episode for me.
Oh, did somebody ever mention, maybe if you wait and see, it will...
No. No one said that at all.
I think you...
Don't remember that at all. Anyway, so yeah, I think story-wise, Luke...
Dan. Somebody told you that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul. Can you explain to me again what it was you were saying? You don't have long distance on that. Okay. So, no, I think Luke was, story-wise, the most logical choice because he was the one building the academy. He's the one that would be searching, where all the other Jedi were really kind of in hiding at that point.
Yeah.
So it made a lot of sense. And I don't think there would have been another character that would have made that big of an impact. I mean, they could have brought in Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu. They could have brought in Cal Kestis from the video games, but none of them would have the reaction as my friend Lisa had, which is she sat there through that point forward going, Mother and Luke Skywalker. Mother, Luke Skywalker. That's all she kept saying. And none of them would have had that same reaction.
Yeah.
Nope.
So
I think I squeed when I saw the X-Wing.
Oh, squeed. I misheard that. Sorry. Now for the other thing, the story arc here, I think we're looking at two things that Loki had to do. Loki was basically just like how WandaVision was Wanda dealing with her grief and getting over that and accepting who she is. Falcon was getting over the loss of Steve and accepting that he was now Captain America, that it was okay for him to pick up the shield. Bucky was getting over being the Winter Soldier and allowing himself to move forward. I think Loki, the main story was him learning that he was worth something, that, people actually cared about him, that he mattered, that it wasn't all about, proving himself to his dad and his brother. And I think that story was complete. I think the Loki we have at the end has gone through a transformation and become a hero of sorts, maybe an anti-hero, but he's still thinking of other people first. He goes back to the TVA with the idea of getting help, and we know how much he hates get help. So, he went back with the idea of getting help, or, once he realized. Sylvie, on the other hand, there was no character growth. She went from wanting to revenge to getting revenge. So
disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, because
it was so disappointing.
Yeah. So firstly, what did you think? What did you guys think of that the character arc for Loki and Sylvie? Paul, why don't we start with you on this one?
To be honest, I think that Loki in story had more impetus to change. He saw his mother's death. He saw the change and stuff. He heard um, Richard E. Grant's original Loki saying, I went into hiding, and then after millennia, I missed my brother. So I think he had more in-story push to change, whereas Sophie, her only real impetus for change was the connection to Loki. And sadly, as Loki put it, she can't trust. He can't be trusted. So she was only had one factor nudging her. I did love the line where He Who Remains was like, "We're all villains here." It was just a fantastic line.
Yeah.
We've all done horrible things. So, I'll never be able to accept Loki as a hero per se, but he is changing he did come out of it wanting to change. Which
Well, I think we have to remember that Loki wasn't a bad guy until Thor's coronation. And then it was all about love for his father. So basically, this whole thing was him getting over his daddy issues. Which
Didn't you tell me that's everything Marvel does?
That's everything all superhero comics do.
Okay.
So
we're right in line.
Yep, we're right in that.
Captain Marvel didn't have daddy issues.
Okay.
I feel like that's
Didn't
another.
we show a clip of her father being abusive when she was a baby or when she was young?
Well, okay. I was going to say I felt she had more surrogate mommy issues, but.
Well, you're assuming the Supreme Intelligence is a surrogate mommy and not just a surrogate parent.
Oh no, I'm saying that I'm saying Marvel.
Yeah.
The real Marvel, who she interacted with on Earth.
Oh, okay. All right. I see that.
But
Cody adds, I like the bit on the Infinity Stones and how they're useless outside of timelines. I think that was a big moment for Loki and has changed. He realized a lot in that moment, I feel. Yeah, he realized that there were things much bigger than him and much more powerful than him. So that was a huge moment for him. And for Eugene Cordero, who got to play Casey, who at the end of the series was actually now a hunter when he goes back to the TVA. So good on you, Eugene, for...
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
Was he in one of the teams going out?
Yeah, you hear his voice when he goes by and when Loki goes by and sees all the timelines and a team runs past him.
Yeah.
Eugene's the one talking.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, Rosalinda, what about you? What did
clue? It was our first clue that something had changed.
Absolutely. What about you? What did you think of Loki's arc and Sylvie's?
Yeah, Paul, I agree with you that Loki had more reasons to change, more impetus to become better. The Mobius works with him, whereas is it Judge Renslayer doesn't work with Sylvie at all. They just keep her there. So he's showing him his life, and then he puts him in the that horrible loop with his breakup loop. That's fun to watch. So he has to change. He's being he doesn't have to change, but he's being prodded into changing. And He Who Remains says, when they're in his office, you can't get to the end until you've been changed by the journey. And that was just a beautiful sentence to me, and sort of reminiscent of my creative writing college days. It felt like something right out of Christopher Vogel's Hero's Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, did you guys lift it from there? Like, it felt like that. And it was so disappointing for me that you see Loki's, come to his full change and to offer Sylvie this opportunity and to say, look, I know that I'm not the trustworthy one, but I'm telling you that I see in him that he is trustworthy. He's telling the truth, and you can trust me. And she stands there and she can't and she doesn't. And that was so hard because when He Remains said that line, I thought, oh, okay, so either Sylvie will change or something will happen to her, and then Loki will get to save the day or whatever. And when that didn't happen, I was upset.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the big guest star. Oh, please.
One quick question though.
Yeah.
Do you think that Sylvie's journey will continue in spoiler season 2?
See, that was a good question that we just had, that maybe they're now going to be enemies.
Yeah.
I mean, I can also say that I love the multiple Lokis. The multiple Lokis, my favorite thing, and the multiple Lokis. Why are they okay? No, hold on. I'm sidetracked. In the what you guys know the correct word for it, where they get pruned and they go to where Eliath is. What's that place called?
The Void.
The Void. So in the Void, why are there just Lokis there? Are they just better at surviving than anyone else?
Yes.
Or they just found okay, great. That's amazing.
As Richard E. Grant's Loki said, "That's what we do. We survive."
We survive. I love it. I feel that very deeply, personally. Like I connected a lot with Loki in these moments. So that was amazing. And the Loki alligator was the touch of whimsical brilliance that we all needed and didn't know we needed.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That and the frog Thor that we see for just a second.
I miss Frog Thor. Where was Frog Thor?
As they pan down through
when they're going back to the bowling alley bunker.
Yeah.
And they lift the lid, and then the camera pans down, and you see like Mjolnir in the dirt, and there's a little mason jar, and in it is Frog Thor, and it's voiced by Chris Hemsworth.
Trying to leap at Mjolnir, but he can't get out of the jar.
There's a little
I have to watch that again.
365 written on the label, and that's because that's where Frog Thor appeared in the comics, is Thor 365.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
I gotta watch that again.
See the Thanos copter.
Thanos copter.
There was a helicopter, crashed helicopter, and it said Thanos across the side. And that is from an old comic where Thanos, before he became quite the imposing villain, he was considered very tough, but he was chasing a character named Hellcat on Earth in a Thanos copter.
Yeah. And part of that was because it was in a book called Spidey Super Stories, which were tied into the old Electric Company TV series.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a very kids-friendly version. So Thanos had his own helicopter.
Can I just say I love that they put all that in for everyone who is,
oh yeah,
all these little Easter eggs for you guys to find. But for people like me, it just goes over our head. It's just part of the landscape. But it's so layered, and that's what's so brilliant about it. Also, that they take all that into consideration and pull it all in, and that it was all in the Void also, because those are as the these worlds change and evolve, and you have different versions of superheroes and different people drawing and different people acting in different costumes and things like that you leave versions behind. So they're kind of pruned versions of these characters themselves, and they ended up in like the Void. Brilliant.
The thing I really like though is besides those Easter eggs, they also did a bunch of urban legend Easter eggs, like DB Cooper.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 more in that episode. There was when in the bowling alley is that Polybius video game machine, which is an urban legend about a video game that was around Portland that people would have seizures playing, and then Men in Black would show up and like collect the data off of the machine. You can look it up. It's all online. And then another urban legend has to do with that giant battleship that dropped into the Void that was firing on Aelith.
Oh, right.
That ship is from the famous Philadelphia experiment. It's the one that's supposed to have turned invisible or time travel, depending on the story. So they put in a lot of urban legend Easter eggs for people that weren't comic fans, but just liked the really weird stuff. So
They,
I thought
they
those
knew their
were-
audience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nicely done.
All right, let's get on to the big reveal. When the elevator doors opened and we got Jonathan Majors. Now, I think Paul and I both knew that Jonathan Majors had been cast as Kang. But in the comics, the character he's playing there, the He Who Remains, is actually a different character in the comics.
Right.
He's not a Kang variant. But the MCU went, we'll just make him a Kang variant to make the story a little tighter. And it makes sense because there really isn't anything more we know about He Who Remains other than he was at the end of time and he created the TVA and the Timekeepers.
Or was he an Immortus variant?
Well, they referred to him as He Who Remains, but yeah, he's more of an Immortus variant than Kang variant. But again, that's nitpicky for anybody outside of comics.
Yes, absolutely. Since Kang had multiple identities throughout.
Yeah. The very short version, the TLDR version, Rosalinda, is that Kang has had multiple identities through time. When he first started time traveling, he went back to ancient Egypt and was Rama Tut. And then he became the Silver Centurion for a while. Then he becomes Kang the Conqueror. And that's where he kind of does most of his really bad stuff. And then when he's wiser and older, he becomes Immortus. So he keeps changing.
Who keeps saying that he's not doing bad stuff anymore, but goes around messing with people.
Yeah, like turning Wanda into a villain at one point.
Yeah, yeah. And pruning timelines.
Yes. So he's more Immortus than he is Kang, but they only refer to him as He Who Remains.
Yeah.
So
Are you saying Kang, Kang, or
yes, Kang?
Okay.
The very ending, the statue, that was Kang. That was the Kang costume from the comics.
Yeah, everything
other than the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was he really lying then?
No, that's one of his scary counterparts that he was warning about.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I thought the portrayal of He Who Remains was brilliant, being that this is a guy who's been alive for a long, long time. He's at the end of time by himself, trying to do this job over and over. And he's basically went wackadoo. But at the same time, there was definitely a Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka feel going on there. But
the purple coat.
Yeah. I read at one point that they let Jonathan Majors ad-lib a lot. He added lines like the whole thing about when they greet each other. Hey, nice shoes. I like your hat. I like your nose. That was all added. The jumping up, the climbing up on top of the desk and standing there. They let him just kind of go and do what he was going to do. And he talks about how he went to the Yale School of Drama is where he learned. And that one of the things he was classically trained in is to be a clown and comedy acting. Yeah. So that's where he pulled that from. But I want to get an idea from both of you. What did you think of the He Who Remains?
Rosalinda?
Rosalinda, yes, please.
I think wackadoo is correct description. He seemed a little unhinged to me, like not super unhinged, but someone who's maybe he's been alone in the center or the end of time, maybe just a little bit too long, maybe a little bit too much power, and also with that sort of irreverence. So it was whimsical and maybe a little crazy and definitely irreverent. Like I've seen it all, I know what's happening, and nothing surprises me anymore. And I appreciated his tolerance of Sylvie and Loki in the beginning. And then when Sylvie's just really not catching on, how he just loses it and yells at her. And I was like, that's what we all want to yell at her right now.
Yeah.
So he's tethered to some form of, coherence. and he pulls himself in, and then other times I like his duh at one point. I forgot what Loki says, and he's just like, duh. It's like, that was the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was tough to figure out. He was he was tough to figure out. I again, I'm never quite sure if he was telling the truth or not. I tended to be on the Loki team Loki, and think that he was being forthcoming in what was about to transpire.
Yeah. Well, I think the giant statues at the end means that he was pretty straightforward. That yep, a bad version of me came in. You know.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me about that is that we saw a lot of versions of Loki in this series also. So Loki is the god of mischief, right? So not like the god of evil, but mischief. The fact that he meets many versions of himself and is able to work with some of the versions of himself, not all of them, but some of them. And then for the story, I feel like the story sort of came full circle where he says, the infinite numbers of me are going to be returning and it's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
And you have two Loki sitting there and they're like, well, maybe we did, like, maybe we're a little bit more extraordinary. Like we managed to work together and combine our powers and do this, exciting thing, even though he also said that he paved the road for them. They just walked down it, which was kind of harsh.
True, but I think it's pretty accurate because there's a lot of things that you have to put the propaganda video aside, the Miss Minutes animated thing, because
I love her.
You can't assume any of that was real because they talked about there being one sacred timeline. But really what it was is there was a multiverse, but they were all forced to conform to this sacred path that they were doing. That's why you got like this big, almost like a cable where you've got a bunch of little electrical wires inside. Those were all the different multiverse, but they were all forced into this one path.
Well, actually, that is what the propaganda said. There were multiverses and then there was the multiversal war, and then it was all brought together by the TVA.
Yes.
But you got to figure, talking about He Who Remains kind of being loopy, if you literally know everything that the person is going to say to you, like there are no surprises for you, whatever.
Yep. You've definitely been married too long.
It would just, yeah. Plus, the only person he gets to talk to is a little animated clock. I mean, even with Tara Strong's voice, that might eventually, get to you. So the fact that he's gone a bit bonkers is so understandable. It's one of those things they do with, vampire fiction. Modernist vampire fiction. They dealt with it a bit in Highlander, as what the TV show. This idea that after a while you're just exhausted, and I thought they did a pretty good job of explaining why he's just a little off. I thought it was also interesting though that he's like, oh, you don't understand. There's going to be a infinite number of me's and people are going to fight. And I'm like, well, yeah, that happened before. So why is it a bad thing if it's all going to go?
Because I think he's been doing this so long that the current timelines haven't had to deal with that.
Yeah.
So now that he's gone, they're going to have to deal with that again and all that branching. Now you kind of addressed this for Cody. Says, why did he let Sylvie kill him? Or if he knew that chaos would ensue and the timelines would go into war, or if he knew all this, why did he leave his life to chance? And I think you pretty much stated it there. He'd been doing this so long, and he finally got to the point where he didn't know what was going to happen next, that he wanted to leave it to chance. I think that's the moment. Yeah, that's the moment he didn't know what she was going to decide. And then once she made her decision, I think that was the moment he no longer knew what was going to happen. I think that's when everything changed.
He kind of did though, because when she stabs him, he says, "See you soon."
Yeah. Well, that's because I think we know we're at the end of time, and it's going to start over.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because that's sort of because he talked about once they were past the threshold, he knew everything up to a point, and then it was all like, ooh, what's going to happen now? But I think he was leaning towards they'll figure it out and they'll take over. Like, I wonder if that was almost reflexive. Like, he'd been doing this for so long that he just assumed that people would see the thing. They would see the thing the same way he did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Reckoning without the fact that they hadn't had quite as many millennia as he did.
Though I am kind of curious because he says that he knows everything that's going to happen and he's got the script, yet he says that he was surprised that it was 2 Lokis that came to him.
That is weird.
He should have known it was going to be 2 Lokis. Because I think that's why we get so many Lokis in the void, besides them being survivors, is that he knew it was going to be a Loki that would come. So that's why they were all being, and it could have been any of them that found their way through Aelith. So,
that is odd, and I can't remember. And he said that before the threshold. I think. What
absolutely.
So
he said that early on in the conversation.
Yeah.
So
did he say 2? And there's 2 of you. How extraordinary! Or did he say I didn't expect 2 of you? It was extraordinary, right?
I think it was extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe not that he didn't expect it, but that it was just interesting to him.
He's acknowledging that it's it would be surprising if he could be surprised.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be.
Maybe.
Also,
maybe he was just trying to make them feel good.
I also like the fact that
you're very good. Yeah.
When I was a kid, teenager, I went to a play. It was a dress rehearsal for a play with Anthony Geary from General Hospital, Luke and Laura fame.
Yes.
And they were terrorists, and he was the head of this terrorist organization. And his costume had a shoulder holster, and he had the gun in the shoulder holster through the majority of the play. And at one point, he pulled the gun out, and he tucked it into the small of his back. And that clicked in my head because I went, oh, he's going to use that gun. And sure enough, there's a scene where he's talking to one of the other terrorists, a woman, and he's hugging her, and then he reaches in the back, pulls the gun, and shoots her. He wouldn't be able to do that had it been in the shoulder holster. So we're a school of drama kids, and they come out afterwards and allow us to ask questions and stuff. So sure enough, 14, 15-year-old me goes, yeah, Mr. Geary, why did you, because I get why you had to move the gun from the holster to the small of the back because you needed it to be able to use that scene. But story-wise, why would he do that? What would be the impetus for that? And I watched him get furious at the director and start yelling off stage. See, I told you people would notice that. He noticed it. We can't do this. And he started just cursing a blue streak. And I'm like, and I think that pretty much wrapped up our questions at that point. So I noticed things like that. I've been noticing it. So there's a point where I tell that story for a reason. There's a point where He Who Remains pulls his time twister or time controller or temp pad or whatever you want to call it off his wrist and pushes it to the edge of the table. And at the moment, it almost looks like he's like, because he said, I don't know what's happening anymore. And it's almost like I'm done. But at the same time, it's out there in the exact spot that Sylvie would need it to send Loki away. So how much did he not know and how much did he know? That's what I'm wondering.
Or could it have been there for Loki to send Sylvia away?
It could have been there for either one of them to use. If maybe he just knew a Loki would make the decision.
My impression was, and I can't remember the exact dialogue, was that he was basically like saying, here's the power to continue in my footsteps. I not that exact phrasing, but I thought he specifically pushed it out there, like, and I'm gonna give this to you so you can play this part and run the TVA. But yeah, I can't remember the exact lines.
Yeah.
But I think he was being honest in that he knew after the threshold, he knew, or the boundary, or whatever the heck, he knew it was one thing or the other. Either they would continue, and he could go off, whatever, or if Sylvie killed him, everything would start over again. So he knew the two general possibilities. I don't think he knew the specifics. He didn't know whether Sylvie would kill him or not. But yeah, he may have just pushed it out there like, washing his hands of it, kind of like, whatever happens, kind of not my problem. At least not until, it'd be the next version of him whose problem it was.
Yeah. All right, this is the halfway point of our show. We do a 90-minute show now. And this would be a great place for a commercial or a sponsor. So if you are looking to sponsor a live podcast, drop me a line. We can definitely set something up. And this would be where your ad would play. But we don't currently have a sponsor. I don't even have a Dr. Pepper Zero to pretend we have a sponsor. I just have a glass of water, and water doesn't sponsor shit. So
Mimokis
and Lysol. Yes, so we have lots of possibilities. Yes, we're sponsored by Valiant and Bloodshot. All right, yeah, there we go. All right, let's move on to Cody's like our fourth member of the show tonight.
Yeah.
Cody says, that's interesting. He pushed it towards them. Maybe it was intentional that he did do that. Loki did the same to Mobius when he took his pad in the interview.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sad. Speaking of Mobius, I'm so sad he didn't get his to jet ski.
Yeah, but he's still alive, so there's still a chance. As long as there's a chance.
Well, there's now an infinite number of Mobiuses, so maybe one of them is jet skiing as
and an infinite number of jet skis.
Will they go on to type Shakespeare? Oh, sorry,
we don't know yet.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah, they could. Absolutely. That's right. As soon as they put fingers on a jet ski.
Your jet ski didn't have fingers?
I never owned a jet ski.
What timeline are you from?
Wait, which variant are you, Dan?
I think we need to prune him.
I think we do.
Well, if I get to go hang out with Richard E. Grant and Alligator Loki, I'm in. Prune.
There you go. I feel so bad because Kid Loki did a very fine job, but I mean, he's smack dab between Richard E. Grant and Alligator Loki, and the actor did a wonderful job with it. And I feel bad for boastful Loki as well. In that, with those bookends, they're kind of like, oh, and the other guys.
Yes, absolutely. So. Now, Kid Loki shows up in Young Avengers. We've been doing a lot of stuff for Young Avengers.
Yeah.
There's the whole Kang is also part of the Young Avengers in his Iron Lad persona, because I told you Kang's very confusing. So there is always a possibility that we'll get Kid Loki again. I found this interesting, and no one mentioned it when it came out, but it's popped up since the director started talking about it. But the actual Timekeeper animatronic Chuck E. Cheese show, the voices of the Timekeepers were Jonathan Majors. Did all three of them.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even remember the other Timekeepers talking. Just the... Oh, yeah. That's
the big walrus guy, the Wilfred Brimley one.
It's almost like a Wizard of Oz sort of scenario.
That's exactly what she said. She said that it would make sense to have him do it. So they sent him the lines and said, well, just record some different voices and send them back. She said, and what we got was a treasure trove.
Yeah.
That he just did a whole bunch of variations based on the artwork and the lines and stuff, and they were able to put it together without even having to have him come in. So I think he only spent a week on set, which is another reason why I think it stayed somewhat a secret.
Yeah.
So Cody says, I had a funny thought. Maybe that's how they close out season 2. Mobius riding away on a jet ski in the sunset with Alligator Loki on his back. That's how I see it going. Just looking over the shoulder.
And I thought it would be Tom Hiddleston Loki holding on behind him.
I was set for that until we met Alligator Loki. And now it's all about Alligator Loki.
Alligator Loki wins every time, guys.
Yeah.
He ate President Loki's hand.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, that's pretty impressive because his teeth actually went up higher, and then when he got shaken off,
he just grabbed the hand on the way down.
The wrist. And it's like, does he have another set of teeth down his throat?
That scream, by the way, was so good.
Yes.
And it was so shrill and comical at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. It was definitely not like the the tough guy scream, like I am the Lord of everything. It was just so many perfection moments.
And there are so many severed hands in the MCU. I mean, they do it regularly. Everybody loses a hand.
Well, stretch it out to all of Disney. I mean, Star Wars, people are losing hands right and left.
Well, Fahey said he put it in originally because it was an homage to Star Wars.
It's amazing.
So Luke losing his hand in Empire Strikes Back. But now it's Thor loses his hand in Dark World. I mean, it's just, there's arms and hand. When Yellow Jacket disappears, all of Phase 2, every Phase 2 thing had a hand get severed. And that was the equivalent of Empire Strikes Back. So they just seem to keep it going now. Hey, have we lost a hand yet? No, let's do that.
Where's our checklist?
Yeah.
It's time to lose a hand, guys.
Yeah. We need a great cameo.
Yeah.
We need
where's our checklist? Oh, I've got it right here. Oh.
The most bizarre
I
Easter
wish I
egg
had
I ever
long
heard.
sleeves on. That would have been much better.
Yeah, the most bizarre Easter egg I ever heard. I may have mentioned this last week or at some point, but there was an animated Peter Pan recently with Tom Hiddleston as Captain Hook.
Really?
Yes. So having Tom Hiddleston losing his right hand to an alligator seems very Captain Hook-like. So maybe when we see President Loki again, he'll have a hook.
So
one can only hope.
Wasn't President Loki destroyed at the end of time?
But the void is outside of time, so shouldn't he still exist?
I don't know, because if time restarted, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because really, is anything outside of time? Really?
I know. I would like to sit down with Michael Waldron and go, please explain this to me. But he spent so much time working on Rick and Morty. I'm not sure how many cohesive sentences he'll be able to string together.
Either that or he'll break your brain.
I walked out of my office the other day and found my nephew and his boyfriend watching Rick and Morty in the living room. And my mother, my 78-year-old mother, has turned to watch this with them.
Mm.
And it was the episode about the dragons. And if you're up on Rick and Morty, it's all about how slutty the dragons are. This is an incredibly overly sexual episode about dragons just wanting to
bang other dragons.
Yes. Bang them like a bass drum. But and my mom was just watching away and giggling through the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my God. So now she's watching Rick and Morty. She also watched the Bloodshot movie that night, so I don't know anymore.
Maybe you broke her brain with your decades of geekery.
She has read my novels, so there's a good chance. All right. Cody's got another question. We might as well. I think it's a good question. It's how do you guys think the events of Loki will play out in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Well, I think pretty obviously they've just created the multiverse, so madness can ensue. So that's the first step. I'm pretty sure Stephen Strange probably woke up from a nice sleep, straight up in his bed, going, "Oh my God, what just happened?" Yeah,
I think in the Multiverse of Madness they will take it one step beyond.
Do, 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 do.
Okay.
I think you and I have been doing this show together too long.
Too long, guys.
Yes. See, Madness was a band back in the 80s who were still together, but they primarily did ska.
When you explain the joke, you kill the joke.
The thing is, most of the people watching are probably like, what was that joke?
Yeah.
What? I find myself having to explain a lot of my old man jokes. So,
yeah.
Don't explain. Just walk away, Paul.
Yeah. So my thought on Multiverse of Madness and Kang. I don't know if Kang is going to be anything outside of Phase 4, but I have a feeling that what's going to happen is Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be largely connected to the multiverse. That's how we're going to suddenly get Alfred Molina back as Doc Ock from the Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. How we're going to get Jamie Foxx Electro from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies into the MCU. So I think that's going to play a big part there. Doctor Strange is going to show up. In Doctor Strange, I think they're going to start working on fixing the multiverse, and it may even be fixed there because and Tom Hiddleston has been reported as showing up in Doctor Strange 2. Mm-hmm. Plus, Loki season 2 wasn't guaranteed from the beginning. The director's not coming back for it. I don't know if the writer is. It was added on during production. So there's a chance that story might get wrapped up, and then they'll deal with the fallout, like, okay, what are we going to do with Sylvie and stuff? But the multiverse part of it may get wrapped up there. But I think Kang will continue on as the big bad for at least Phase 4, because he's going to show up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. We know that because that's where he was first announced. And then I think the end of Phase 4 is the Fantastic Four movie, taking the place of an Avengers movie. Because all the phases end with an Avengers movie, big team-up movie. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be the end of Phase 4. We'll get the Fantastic Four, we'll get that together, and it's possible that we'll wrap up Kang at that point. Or he'll shift into something bigger and become the big bad for a few seasons. But I think there's a chance we'll wrap him up. But what do you guys think? Paul?
I mean, it makes a certain amount of sense from comics fandom side in that Rama Tut, who was the first incarnation of Kang to show up, was introduced in FF. And there's the supposed connection to Doctor Doom as well.
And that he's Nathaniel Richards, so he might be a descendant of Reed Richards.
Right.
Or at least Reed Richards' dad.
So, I mean, that would make sense. I think that, because I'm wondering if they will skip Kang entirely in Multiverse of Man. Well, wait, is Ant-Man coming out first?
No, Ant-Man is not until 2023.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they will kind of skip over Kang as Kang in Multiverse of Madness and just sort of deal with sort of exploring it, and maybe we'll learn more about the Nightmare Division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be Nightmare. Nightmare has been one of the villains talked about. Yeah. Shumagorath is another one.
Yeah. I used to love going and seeing Shumagorath at SeaWorld. He didn't even mute me. But I think I think maybe they'll be focused on more the mystical end of things in Multiverse of Madness, because Wanda's supposed to show up in that.
Yeah,
as I remember, and then they'll deal with more King stuff in Quantumania, because he's more of a scientist, as was said. Yeah. So that's my thought. Rosalinda?
I have no thoughts. Also, it's all news to me. But I have a question.
Okay.
So, are WandaVision and Loki and possibly Falcon and the Winter Soldier, are they setups for future franchise films? Is this how this is working? This is what it seems like to me. That we're getting like a lot of backstory that feeds into bigger productions.
A lot of them are bridge stories. We're getting WandaVision souped her up in a lot of ways to make her a major part of the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
And we've known that since the beginning. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was setting up a new Captain America and also setting up a different subplot, which also connected to Black Widow, where it looks like they're building another team of Dark Avengers.
Oh.
So there's this other subplot which might be dealt with because some movies don't lend itself to the Kang story or the multiverse story. Shang-Chi doesn't make a lot of sense. They could have some things pop up, like we could be introduced to a new version of Iron Fist in the fight that has nothing to do with the Netflix series, yet we could still get Charlie Cox as Daredevil. They could pick and choose now that they've got this multiverse. Eternals, that might tie in, but I think there's so much story to tell with the Eternals that they're not really going to deal much with that.
Right.
But Spider-Man is supposed to definitely be affected, and so is Doctor Strange, and we know Ant-Man has that. But other movies and stuff they haven't really said, and other TV series like the Hawkeye series shouldn't. That's probably going to be the other subplot, the Dark Avenger type thing. Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, those I don't know. They've got so they're doing multiple big stories. So that's why I think Phase 4 might wrap up the Kang story, and then the Dark Avenger thing becomes Phase 5, something like that. So, but we'll have to see. Brian, first thing Cody says, or Mordo is going to meet with He Who Remains. Mordo was left alive at the end of Doctor Strange. Mordo is a factor out there that is going to have to come to play at some point. And we know Chiwetel Ejiofor is supposed to be in Doctor Strange too. So, are you going to correct me on his name?
Chiwetel.
Okay. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yep. Got his last name right though, so very good.
My problem is that I used to do this as a print. So when I worked for Bleeding Cool, I would sound it out in my head so I'd learn how to spell it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be how it was pronounced, but it's how phonetically it sounded. So I could spell it. So Chiwetel Ejiofor. Yeah. So there's a good chance that Mordo is going to be, he's going to be a player in the Multiverse of Madness. Could he be working with He Who Remains? Possible. He could be working with, he might bring Agatha Harkness back in because Agatha is sucking up magic and stuff. She might convince him that, they could work together to eliminate sorcerers, and she's just doing it to be able to gain power. Or it could be Nightmare or Shumagorath. He could be working. It's a lot of possibilities. So, but I think Baron Mordo will definitely be a factor.
But I don't think my impression is that He Who Remains does not remain.
Yes.
He has to become He Who Remains again.
Well, another thing you can think about,
not, because depending how the timelines go.
Well, it could be a She Who Remains, or it could be a Loki He Who Remains. It might not be the same person.
I
Sylvie,
don't
who
think we're going to get
remains.
different people playing all the variants of Kang, because Kang, like Wanda, are Nexus beings, which means that they are consistent through all of the multiverse. That's why when we see the little play out on the desk, they all look like him.
Right.
Yes, you're
I
right.
think they'll all, whatever version it is, it'll always be Jonathan Majors.
Sure,
Also,
sure. I just mean that I don't think Mordo can necessarily interact with the character that we knew from this show.
right, but he could work with one of the variants. Also, they may be saving Kang for Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they could deal with Immortus. They could deal with Scarlet Centurion. They could deal with the different versions of Kang, and without, I mean, that could be interesting. Is you really end up with one villain, though it's just variants of the villain, that becomes the big boss for a lot of these movies, and it ties them together that way. So maybe it's Immortus, and we see Immortus versus Doctor Strange, and then we get Kang, and then in Fantastic Four we get Rama Tut or something like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
I concur, Dan.
Yes. What you said.
Brian asked a good. Oh nope, that's not the one I was going to go. I think Riri Williams will be a Kang variant. Okay, now that's interesting because then she would be kind of playing the Iron Lad role. Interesting. We're going to get a series called Ironheart. Ironheart is a young African American girl who is super intelligent, and she basically builds her own Iron Man armor and becomes like Iron Man. And she's like a teenager at MIT and stuff. So it's an interesting character. She's a more recent character. But combining her with Iron Lad's story, making her a Kang variant, would be very interesting. I think that's a neat idea, Brian. It goes against the idea that he's going to be a Nexus. Paul?
Yes.
Nexus being.
Being.
Oh,
Yeah.
Being.
A Nexus Paul.
But
I can
yeah.
answer that one.
Yeah. Brian, I think that's a good idea. Now, this is the other question Brian had. How do you think What If will tie into all this? Where if you would have asked me before, I didn't think What If was going to be a big deal. But now I kind of get the idea that Uatu, the Watcher, is going to be showing us different aspects of the multiverse.
Right.
That
right.
What If will now be like a guided tour. And in doing so, and again, I'm going to get my theory out, and then I'll let you guys jump in. I think what they're doing, this series will allow them to introduce some really out there ideas so that once the multiverse is shut down, if it gets shut down, and we get back to a single timeline or whatever becomes our timeline, they could do a lot of changes without having to do a lot of setup. We could suddenly have Quicksilver alive again and just go, well, that's because of the timeline variance. Or we could bring in Daredevil from the Netflix series because that's just what the timeline is now when it got merged together. Or they could bring in Miles Morales or these other characters that they want to introduce. They could set up the X-Men. They can do all of that. But using What If to show all these extremes will open up people's minds to the idea that anything is possible. And then once you do that, it doesn't matter what you insert. You can just go, yep, it was just part of the multiverse. So
I wonder if people will if we'll see a drop in people watching, like casual fans of the MCU not watching What If because they're like, it's just a cartoon. I hope that Spider-Verse has broken that way of thinking, but it feels like it's still out there where people don't take the cartoons as seriously.
well, we have a casual viewer with us. Rosalinda, do you have any plans on watching the What If series?
I was unaware of a What If series. I was going to ask you what the What If is. I was going to say, is the What If a person? Is the What If an idea? What is the What If?
All right. The short version is that years ago, Marvel started a comic series called What If, and the whole idea is they would take major points in the comic history and go, what if instead of, what's a good example? What if instead of Captain America getting the super soldier, somebody else got it? And we follow that story.
Or what if the Punisher became Captain America?
Yes.
Okay.
Or what if Spider-Man
So
joined the Fantastic Four?
Right.
So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure sort of story, right?
Yeah.
What if you went down the road with the quicksand in it? Then what happens to you? You turn to page 24 and find out. Okay. I'm a fan of cartoons. I don't think it being animated makes it less worthy of good storytelling. So it wouldn't turn me off of it. Is it going to be a Disney Plus thing? Is it already out?
Yeah.
Disney Plus, same time slot as Loki, midnight, starting August 11th.
Midnight. Oh, okay, cool. All right, sure.
Yeah,
I will give it a whirl.
Yeah. Now,
I think Disney Plus has the best stuff out there right now, to be honest with you. And I'm going beyond the Star Wars and the Marvel things. That the other series that they're bringing in, I think, are inventive and interesting.
Oh, I agree. Except Hulu has Crime Scene Kitchen, and I am hooked on that show.
Did you know who set you up with that one? Was that Natasha?
No. Crime Scene Kitchen was stoned with my friend Lisa and us going, what the hell is this? And that was it. We've been hooked ever since. So,
okay.
And we'll probably be watching more of it tomorrow night because I'm going to go up and hang out with her tomorrow night. So,
nice. Crime Scene Kitchen. I don't even want to know. I want to know.
Oh, it's a great show where basically a bunch of teams of chefs walk in, or bakers.
Respect for wishes.
No, tell me.
Viewers might want to know. So basically, you go into a kitchen that someone has baked something, and you've got to look through at the clues, figure out not only what it is they baked, but then you have to make the same thing.
Okay, now see that I would be into. I thought being we are mutual friends of someone who likes their crime shows. I thought it was like crime scene, like actual crime scene. And when you start talking about chefs, and I was like, what are they going to be doing in a bloody crime scene? Oh wow, that's when I needed to know the rest of it, Paul.
I was just say it's a riff on Hannibal.
When I'm not watching these kind of genre shows, I spend a lot of time watching the Cooking Channel. So
me too.
Beat Bobby Flay, Chopped. I'm hooked on all those shows.
I love Good Eats.
Good Alton Brown, yes.
Yep.
Alton
Can I just
Brown.
say, Alton Brown, if you're watching, I would really like it if you would do a completely gluten-free episode and the science behind what flours you use and why. That would make me happy.
Because he's very big on explaining what gluten is and does.
Exactly. So when you take gluten out, you can't use the same gluten-free flour mix to recreate every, glutinous product that you would have. And yet I have no idea why you would substitute a potato starch versus a tapioca starch or a rice or a whatnot to get the same results. And I want him to make some croissants. Just two small asks, Alton. Two.
If Alton Brown is listening, I have two questions. One, how the hell did you end up here? And
We're amazing, Dan.
Number two, would you like to come on the show? Would love to have you come on to Popco the Writers. Come on in. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So
he is a very geeky guy.
He is, and I think he'd be an absolute blast to talk to.
Yes.
So.
Someone watching knows Alton. Someone.
Yeah. Please, if you know Alton Brown, please extend the invite to him. We would love to have him on the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's go on to the finale, or the ending of the show, where we get the little stamp. Loki will be back in season 2.
Yes.
All right, Rosalinda, what do you want to see in season 2 of Loki? Besides more alligator Loki.
Besides more alligator Loki, which is a given. You know what? I was so I was so disappointed with the Sylvie arc and how all of that transpired. It was so close to, it was right at the very end. So when I saw that there would be a season 2, I was still sort of, dumbfounded in what I want to happen. The romantic in me, even though they are the same person, and that's weird. If you ever dated anyone that's very much like you, it's strange and it's not fun. Just gonna say that and leave it. Then the part of it was like, I want them to end up together, or be able to. I want her to be able to trust, and this and this and this. And so I guess that's still a possibility, even though she seems very resistant to change. And then Loki is there trying to do the good thing, except of course, Mobius doesn't know who he is, because I'm assuming that we're in a completely different timeline, right? That's new Mobius.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I'm very conflicted and confused about what I want to happen next. So I'm just going to go with Gator Loki.
Gator Loki. Paul, besides Richard E. Grant actually getting a muscle suit under his costume, what would you like to see?
I don't need a muscle suit under his costume. I just need them to give him a decent tailor, because that costume would have been fine, except that they tried to make it not fine.
He wants a muscle suit. He's actually talked about. He's like, "Where's the muscle suit?"
If he wants a muscle suit, give him whatever he wants. And if Sandra Bernhardt shows up as his version of Sylvie, that's fine. Because I love them in Hudson Hawk so much together.
Oh
yeah. I want to see more Sylvie. And I do. And it'd be interesting to see different versions of Sylvie, in the same way that, not that Sylvie isn't a version of Loki, she is, but there have to be more female Lokis out there. I don't think there's. Yeah, I don't think just one. If we've got a multiverse, and there can be a alligator Loki, well, of course we don't know. Alligator Loki could be female.
That's right.
We don't know.
That's true.
That's true.
I mean, we had a hard enough time deciding whether it was alligator Loki or crocodile Loki.
Yes.
We went with alligator.
Or he could have been. Cayman Loki.
Okay.
Which is a smaller version of a.
Could have been Steve Irwin Loki.
That's poor taste, Dan. Too soon. But yeah, that's the big thing. I want to see. I want to see B-15. I want to see Mobius. I think we're going to see more Ramona.
On his jet ski.
Yes.
Yes, Mobius on his jet ski. Maybe even a a high-tech jet ski that like works in the air too. Yeah. A multi-element jet ski. But I mean, it seems like what I really want is just more of everything. Because
just a bit more, please.
Yes. Oh.
I love Richard E. Grant's comments. He wants a Disney Plus series focused on classic Loki and alligator Loki. He thinks the two of them in like a buddy series would be perfect, and I would absolutely sign up for that. Just like I would sign up for a Red Guardian series. I'm big on Red Guardian from Black Widow. There was a scene that was supposed to happen that got cut in the 5th episode where all the Lokis joined in to attack Aelith. So boastful Loki and all of them changed, and then decided, we're actually going to try this. So it would have been nice to see the Charge of the Lokis or the end game version of Loki.
Charge of the Loki Brigade.
Charge of the Loki Brigade. Yes, yes. So
look, it's Errol Flynn Loki.
I kind of want.
Oh, please.
I'd kind of like to see Sylvie character explored more, and I would really kind of like to have her turn out not to be a Loki. I realize I want her to be the Enchantress. So, because also that makes the kissing thing a little less creepy to me. But
It's less, yeah.
Cody said, Brian definitely likes boastful Loki, and yeah, we could use some more of him. He was cool. I'd like to know about his version of Mjolnir. And Cody says, I hope they address Nexus event Sylvie and Loki, because while they were on Lamentus and also Loki reuniting with Thor, just because it'll be interesting to see how it would turn out. Absolutely want to see this Loki hooking back up with Thor. You know, especially with how much Thor has changed since Loki's death.
Yeah.
You know, but to see Loki and Thor meet up again, that would be awesome. But then I still want to see everybody meet Coulson again, because they all think he's still dead from the first Avengers movie.
Well, he is dead. Multiple times.
Multiverse.
Yes, but I'm
Not
just saying.
anymore, Paul.
Everything's possible, bitches.
Wait, does this mean Vision is back? Can Vision be alive again now?
Anything's possible.
Well, wasn't Vision commingled at the end of WandaVision? I thought he was.
With other Vision?
With the essence of Vision from the
Well, his memories went in. I don't know about his essence.
Yeah.
He wasn't the same Vision.
Yeah, this is Disney Plus, not HBO Max, so. I got a laugh out of Rosalinda. It was worth the joke.
No, the best jokes are the ones that get no laughs.
You keep thinking that, Paul. It'll help you sleep at night.
Hey, at least I think I'm funny.
Somebody should.
Matters.
All right, so we did the ratings overall. Do you guys have any questions or things you want to throw out there about the series? Or about the MCU in general?
Do you mean us or them?
You, Paul. You, Rosalinda.
Are we getting a Thor series anytime soon? I amend my earlier comment. I also want Thor in season 2.
Cody says he read an article a week or so that Paul Bettany doesn't have any news on Marvel playing Vision in future projects. Yeah, I added the word Bettany because I didn't want to think that our Paul would have a reason to know about Vision.
Actually, I do know all about it, but I can't tell you.
Yeah, see a little red dot moving on your forehead.
Knew I should have covered up that skylight.
Yeah. So we got what if Paul, what do you you got any other comments or stuff about the MCU where we're at right now and the start of phase 4?
It's an interesting place to be. I'm most interested to see how Eternals fits with the MCU, because it could be, I mean, by its very nature, it could have been a standalone. In the same way that, like at DC, Kirby created the Fourth World, which was not originally intended to be part of the main DCU. Mm-hmm. And my feeling on Eternals was he was trying to play in a separate sandbox. Although I don't know if that was intended, wholeheartedly, but it was kind of like, this is a different corner, this is a different niche.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see how Eternals ties in with anything, and if anything we've seen in the Disney Plus series ties in with Eternals, even though we didn't realize it at the time.
That's a fair question. Yeah. See, I'm curious about that, because I think a lot of people now coming off of Loki are like, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. That's where the answers come from. That's where the next thing is, and they're kind of overlooking Wanda or Hawkeye and Miss Marvel and Shang-Chi. And I think we could get a lot of interesting things. Like I said, we've got that big tournament that's happening in Shang-Chi. And that would be a great place to introduce some new characters that they don't want to spend a lot of time on. They just want to tease them. So a lot of the fighting characters or some of the more mystical Asian-inspired things like the Hand or the Foot Clan. Sorry, wrong group. Stuff like that. You know, you could, like I said, you could reintroduce Iron Fist there and fix up what they did with Netflix. You could introduce a lot of different. Electro could be introduced there. Any character that has kind of a martial art background,
White
could
Tiger
show up in that. Yeah,
or not White Tiger. White Tiger.
Yeah, White Tiger.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've got a lot of characters that, if the battle in there has to do with them getting some kind of mystical power, which kind of gets the idea from the thing that the winner gets access to where the Great Protector is, that island.
Yeah,
it would make sense that Karmatage sends Wong, the U.S. Army sends Abomination, you know, that other groups, Kunlun sending the Iron Fist would make a lot of sense. Those type of things. So I'm kind of hoping that connects, but I don't know. I think we've got so many different things going on. No, you know, multiverse aside, we've got these more grounded series, and we've got these more mystical series and sci-fi series, and they're bringing the sci-fi and the mystical together. You know, but then we get Shang-Chi, which is kind of over here, and Hawkeye over there. So it's really interesting to see these divergent universes exist together and how they're going to merge, you know. Which could be why we don't have an Avengers at the end of this phase, because everything is so different that it would be hard to pull together an Avengers team, where if you do a Fantastic Four movie, you get the big team-up thing going on without having to explain why suddenly Shang-Chi is on a team with Doctor Strange, you know?
So what's your biggest question, Dan?
My biggest question right now is how much we're going to see Kang. Is Kang the next Thanos, or is Kang just the bad guy for Phase 4? How much Kang are we going to get? And we can get a lot of Kang. And like I said, they could just, you know, run him out as Immortus and then run him out as this other character. And, you know, Victor Timely is another name he had. We could have a whole thing with Victor Timely, you know, and
I hope not.
Yeah.
Or I mean, we could have a Kang in 3 different movies that is a different Kang.
Yeah, but if they're all played by Jonathan Majors, that's kind of interesting. Plus, think about this for Jonathan Majors. This is the greatest acting role ever, because you get to just recreate the character all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he's not going to be the same as He Who Remains next time he shows up. So this is his Orphan Black.
Yes, good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Good way of putting it. Oh, by the way, did you see Cody's last comment? Apparently he took off. See you, Cody.
You guys should do an episode of the show Sweet Tooth. Thanks for answering my question. Have a good evening. I have not watched Sweet Tooth yet.
Nor I.
Something to consider. Brian asked, how do you kill Kang?
With a pitchfork egoer.
Low ticket sales. Yeah, that'll kill him just
Not
like
wrong.
that.
Yes, ratings. Yeah.
Not wrong.
Yeah. You would have to reestablish you'd have to squish the multiverse back down into a controllable thing. So you'd need to reestablish a version of the TVA, and then you would have to turn them against Kang, which is what He Who Remains basically did.
Well, and the big thing about Kang is he almost always slips off into the time stream.
Very true.
If you could figure out a way to prevent that, but then again, most of our heroes don't want to kill.
True. Yep. That's a shame, too. That's why they need to bring John Burns all over. He just goes around and cleans everything up as the Punisher. All right, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. That was a great conversation. Rosalinda, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you for having me back.
Where can folks find you online?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my earbuds are giving me the signs that they're gonna conk out. Website rosalindadiaz.com. And if you want to find me on Facebook, that would be insert an S and an I, like the letters, like the word CSI between my name, Rosalinda's Ideas, Facebook. Or Facebook.com. You know how it works.
Yeah.
Go to my website.
I still have your banner there. So
there you go.
Hey.
That's it.
And of course, Mr. Story.
Twitter Storyville, Instagram Storyville, Facebook Storyville, and also Storyville.com.
Yep. Or you can find him at the Comic City in what city?
West Bloomfield Township, Michigan.
Yep, a great place to go buy your comics. So, Brian, thank you for joining us. Cody, always great to have people jumping in and asking questions, as well as Caleb Richardson. So thank you all for joining us. All of you popped in, the nice little comments and marks, except for someone gave us a sad face. I don't know why we made you sad, Sparky, but and I'm not picking on him, calling him Sparky. It says his name is Sparky Santos.
Oh.
We're sorry, Sparky.
So maybe he's sad that Loki's over.
Where I missed that entirely.
Oh, it's in the people react to it on Facebook and stuff. So different followers. And
Maybe, you know what? Sometimes I hit the wrong thing and you really want the one next to it, which is the laughing one, but he got the sad one by mistake.
He was probably laughing at Paul's jokes.
I believe that's a good pal of mine from California. So I'm not sure why he would be sad, though.
Maybe he heard one of your jokes.
Hey-o.
All right. Rosalinda, again, you are always welcome anytime.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I will pop back in the future on another timeline.
And when you launch your new Amazon Vela series, let me know, and I will have you on the Dan Wickline show during the week and get you some attention over there. So
awesome. That sounds great.
Maybe you'll get the mid-show commercial.
Yeah. I need to figure out how to start making commercials at an opening. I got openings on the other thing, but here I got to do it all myself. So I need to figure out how to make an opening. Yeah. So something with music and like spinning things. Yeah. And the perfect way to end the segment comes from Cody. For all time, always. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Have a great week. I will be on the Dan Wickline show Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 2 o'clock Tuesday and Wednesday Pacific, 6 o'clock Thursday. I've got guests Cara Nicole, the cosplayer from Arizona, on Tuesday, and artist Tom Rash on Thursday night. Yeah, Paul.
And I will not be around next week, so tune in to see who Dan has in my stead. I'll be at Gem City Comic Con.
This is the first polls reminded me of that. I had forgotten about it.
Oh.
So, going to have to figure out. So, Rosalinda, if you want to come back next week, please feel free. Otherwise, it's going to be... Yeah, otherwise, we should get you and Miss Adler to come in and just chat.
There you go.
We'll just chat. Get us drinking and talking about Once Upon a Time. It'll be a great show.
We may have to do that. I may have to try to set that up. So, all right, folks, have a great week, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.